The tragic fall of the boy soldier, the story behind one of World War II's most haunting photos. April 1945. The world is crumbling. Bombs fall, cities burn, the sky is thick with smoke. Amidst the wreckage, a teenage boy stands frozen. His face, streaked with tears, will haunt history forever. In the distance, American soldiers march forward. The war is over. But for him, the nightmare is just beginning. Who was this boy? What had he seen? And why does a single photograph of a weeping child soldier carry more horror than an entire battlefield? This is the tragic story of Hans Georg Henke, the boy whose sorrowful face became a symbol of Nazi Germany's desperate final days. A story of blind loyalty, shattered innocence, and war's cruel reality. But more chillingly, a story of how easily an empire turns children into weapons. Hans was born in 1928 in a Germany still reeling from World War I. His father, a factory worker, died young. His mother followed soon after, leaving him orphaned at just 11. Imagine that. No family, no home, only war. In Nazi Germany, survival meant picking up a rifle. The Hitler Youth became his new family. What began as patriotic games turned into rigorous military training. By 16, Hans was drafted into the Luftwaffe Flakehelfer, manning anti-aircraft guns against Allied bombers. But training didn't prepare him for what came next. April 1945. The Third Reich is in ruins. The streets of Berlin are littered with corpses and starving civilians. Allied bombers fill the skies. Every day, Hans and his fellow teenage soldiers fire into the heavens, trying to delay the inevitable. But the inevitable arrives. The Americans break through. The Nazi war machine collapses. And Hans? He is left behind with other boy soldiers, abandoned as the regime crumbles. On April 3rd, 1945, in Hessen, Germany, Hans is captured. No grand battle. No heroic stand. Just a terrified 16-year-old surrendering. And then the photograph is taken. Hans Georg Henke, standing in his Luftwaffe uniform, tears streaming down his face. Not just sadness, despair, betrayal. The realization that everything he believed in was a lie. That image became one of World War II's most haunting photographs. Because it wasn't just Hans. It was an entire generation. Boys raised to fight for a doomed cause, discarded when the war was lost. Hans survived. He wasn't executed or killed in battle. He was held as a prisoner, then released. He built a quiet life in East Germany, working as a mechanic, trying to forget. But history never forgets. The photograph followed him for decades, a frozen moment of agony, a reminder of how easily nations turn children into weapons. Hans died in 1997, taking his thoughts and regrets to the grave, but his picture still speaks. And maybe the scariest part? The world keeps repeating history. Hans wasn't a monster. He wasn't a villain. He was a boy with no choice. And that's what makes a story terrifying. Because history is filled with boys like Hans, children swept into wars they didn't start, forced to fight battles they never understood. And as long as nations keep feeding young minds with propaganda, blind patriotism, and promises of glory, there will always be more Hans Georg Henkes, more child soldiers, more tragic photographs, more history repeating itself. So the next time you see that haunting image, ask yourself, are we really any different today? Or is history just waiting for its next victim? Keep the story alive. If this story moved you, don't let it fade into history. War repeats itself, but knowledge is power. The more we understand these stories, the real stories behind the faces frozen in time, the better we can prevent history's mistakes. For more deep dives into the dark, mysterious, and often chilling truths of the past, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It helps us keep telling these stories and ensures you never miss a piece of history the world would rather forget. And if you found this story powerful, drop a comment below. Was Hans a victim, a soldier, or something in between? Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching Shadow of the Past. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and never stop searching for the truth.